Welcome to my studio. My name is Wes, and this is a watercolor painting I'm painting today of a young cow. I've started with the sketch on the watercolor paper. Um, this is a cold press watercolor paper, which has a rougher texture than a hot press, watercolor paper. And I'm just kind of going through filling in the large shapes here. This image, there's a lot of areas where it's just kind of solid colors with some variation, but not a lot of details. So it was kind of just a matter of getting all the colors down where they needed to go. And I'm adding some hair shapes here and there, where it's substantial, and but other than that, it's fairly easy. This part, it's not a technically difficult painting. The colors I'm using I've just basically got the three primary colors: yellow, red, and blue. I'm trying to recall the actual names of them. I think it's Prussian blue, and the other two, I think, is it Windsor yellow and Windsor red? Could that be true? I think that's right. Um, I've also got some white at the top, which is white gouache, which is an opaque watercolor. And I use that at the very end to put in the white highlights that I don't get. If you would like to see the shorter version of this painting process, I've got a sped up version with commentary that's closer to 7 minutes long. You can find the link to that in the show notes below. Some people might prefer that. Most of these colors I'm mixing as I go. I can talk about that a little bit. I try to grab the colors from the side of each of the paint so that if I ever need the pure color, I can just use the top of the paint. So just so it doesn't muddy the entire paint blob that I have out there. But for the most part, especially in this painting, most of these colors I'm putting down are slightly mixed. Sometimes I'll mix on the paper, adding a different color to adjust the color that I've just put down while it's still wet. Other times I'll mix ahead of time. Usually I will. And then you can always adjust the color. It's called glazing when you add another color on top of a already dry color on the paper. And that can adjust the color, since watercolor is a transparent medium. Anytime I want black, I'm usually mixing the two darker colors, blue and red, together. So it's technically more of a purple. But when you get it on the paper strong enough, it appears as black. My setup was such that I couldn't fit the entire watercolor paper on the screen at the same time, so I just kept it like it is so I get the majority of the painting in frame. I'll move it around a little bit as I go here and there, but there's not a lot much more to see really. It's just a cow. You can see that red and blue is just kind of there. It's not. I wasn't carefully mixing it just because I've got a ways to go in the painting, and as long as both of those colors are present, it'll visually blend together to form a dark gray or a purple. One important thing to do when you're trying to paint more realistically, more naturalistically, is to make sure that the whites that you're seeing, the white fur in this instance, is actually white and not a gray, because oftentimes portions of the white fur will be in shadow, and so it may be appearing more cool or more warm gray. I'm going to let this play out a little bit, and I'll be back in a little while to comment when I have something new to say on what's going on the screen. Watercolor can sometimes be a tough medium to get texture in because it's a transparent medium. You often don't have hard lines. It's easy for things to wash together. So you kind of have to intentionally add it in wherever you see it in the reference photo if you want it in the finished painting. So like the hair on the head, I kind of use the more of the tip of the brush to kind of wiggle waggle back and forth to get the little hair looking texture there. And in other places, you might just leave little dabs of color here and there just as hints of texture that may be there, that sort of thing. I'm also trying here to vary the color temperature of these blues and purples. By color temperature, I just mean adding a little more red to make it a little warmer, or a little more blue to make it a little cooler. Because if you focus on the reference photo, any reference photo, you're bound to see some variation in that, and any kind of thing you can do to add that into your painting, that usually helps sell it as a realistic painting. Here I'm just working on little details that I can see in the reference photo. Trying out the side of my brush a little bit. I think I tried there. Although my brush was too wet to make that happen. If you get a slightly drier consistency of paint on your brush, maybe dab it on a paper towel first. You can get a bit of a dry brush technique where the paint kind of skips and you get a lot of white texture in your brush stroke. That's kind of what I was going for, but I didn't quite achieve it. At the same time, I didn't ruin it, so it all evened out. Here I've got a slightly warmer, redder hue, and I'm kind of going back over parts here and there. And you can see my brush strokes are a little more hesitant, a little more wary as I'm going, because I'm concentrating on the photo, trying to find any little hint of subtlety that I can add to my painting to make the finished product sing, to make it look more naturalistic. The cauliflowering effect you see there on the left in the green, and also above on the left side ear, that they call it cauliflowering or blooming. That happens if you add more water into an already wet paint, and the water tends to spread out if the canvas below it is already wet. So in previous layers I must have done that. It it didn't bother me as I was painting, and I'm pretty sure I kind of leave it even into the final painting. Excuse me. But that cauliflower effect, that look that it gives, where it puts all the hue on the outside of this puddle that you've created, all of the paint, um, it can be annoying in some paintings if it's obvious and if it's distracting, that sort of thing. Um, because it can be a sign that it's just an amateur painting. Um, more experienced painters will have that in their mind that that's a possible effect that could happen, and they'll try to prevent it, unless there's parts where it doesn't matter, or if they actually want that to happen, because you can use it to your advantage in situations. In this situation, these background elements aren't as important, and also there is texture in the background that I'm not adding, and so in a way these kind of add that extra bit of texture, breaking up, the solid background. Here I've gone into the background on that side of the face to paint in the negative shape behind, to add that bit of hair on the side of the cheek. I think here in a second I'm going to, here's where I've realized this head is too tall compared to the image I'm looking at, and so I'm kind of wetting that surface, and I'm just going to add in some dark colors to recreate the top of the head, but shorter. So again, using the negative shape, meaning the background color, I'm kind of cutting into the foreground color to create the white hairs. Because obviously I'm not using opaque white, I'm using the white of the paper everywhere that you see white so far. I will add the opaque at the end, but for now it's an exercise in avoiding any kind of the white areas that I want to keep white, and using the background colors to define those shapes, the white shapes in the foreground. Here I'm kind of glazing a little bluish tint to that shadowed face. And the fur on the back of the cow was a little, it wasn't smooth fur all the way, so I kind of tried to add a little bit of texture to that as well. I wanted a little bit of, a little more red in the painting, so I thought I would add in some indication of tree trunks in the background, and decided to make them stand out as red. I figured if it didn't work out, I can just kind of go back in and add some blue and water and mess up the background again. Not a big deal. But I like how it turned out. It really gives a better contrast to the purple look of the cow, of the cow's back area. There's a better view of it. So at this point, I'm finally liking where the painting's going, and I just need to clarify some areas, and I'm adding this opaque gouache to the highlights and to the white areas that I want to be white. You can also combine the white gouache with any color as well, but mostly I'm just using it straight from the tube, so to speak. Kind of reclaiming the white highlights of the image. Again, moving a little more cautiously, trying to get these details right in accordance with what I'm seeing on the reference photo. Most times the reference photo for me is kind of it's kind of a reference book. Like if you were doing a paper and you wanted to have background information and details that you can pull from, that's what the reference image is. It's something that you can stick closely to if you really want your painting to be close to what the reference photo looks like, but you can also veer far away from the reference photo and just use it as a jumping off point. Maybe you just like the colors that you're seeing in the reference photo, and so that's what you're focusing mainly on, or maybe the textures have caught your eye, and you're capturing that and not concerned with proportion or shapes or colors. It's all up to you as the artist. And here I was seeing some shapes in the eye, some highlights, but they weren't this drastic, and so once I added, I was kind of like, well, I need to blend that back out again. So that's what I'm kind of doing here. It was more of a hint that I needed. That actually could have been like eyelashes that were kind of, or eyelashes and hair that was sticking out over the eye now that I'm looking at it. Looking here for any detail of hair that I can add here and there. Every little bit helps. Then I realized I didn't have this ear solidly in on the highlights there, so I'm adding that in. Again, it's the choice of the artist to give the feeling of the painting however they would like. So if I wanted to leave the ear, a little less defined, that creates a certain atmosphere, a certain style. And if I wanted to add that line in there to solidify things, then that's just another choice. In a way, there's no wrong answers in art, but except, unless it doesn't fit with what you're intending to create. in which case it may be wrong for you in that instance. I like painting cows. A lot. Usually it's in acrylic paint, but even in watercolor here, they're just fun creatures to paint. They have oddly shaped heads and um, usually broad areas to play around with the fur and that sort of thing. By the way, if you're watching this, if you have a suggestion for future paintings that you'd like to see me paint, leave a comment and let me know. I'm open to suggestion. Every time I finish a painting, in fact, I kind of have an amount of time where I'm desperately trying to think of what to paint next. Sometimes it's in the same vein as what I just painted, but usually I'm skipping around to different subject matter, different styles. So if you have a certain subject matter you'd like to see, I'd be happy to hear it and to try it out if it's something that appeals to me. Of course, if you commission a painting, you can get it done the way you'd like it, within reason. You have to kind of like my style of painting, but beyond that, I can work with you, get the painting like you like it. Like I said, most of my stuff is in acrylic paint. If you're not familiar with my work, you can find my website at wessforeman.com. That's WESS Foreman, FOREMAN.com. And I've got a commission price list. You can find it through the menu there, as well as an emailed newsletter that I send out occasionally. Let people know what shows I have going on and other things. You can find all that on the website. You can also follow my Facebook artist page if you search for Wess Foreman Artist on Facebook. So if you find me there, follow me, and I post often there, as well as on Instagram. All that should be linked through the website, but you can search for my name as well, and you should be able to find me like that. On Instagram, I usually post paintings that are in the process of being painted, as well as finished paintings. So I find that stuff interesting to see from other artists as well. And then on Facebook, it's often finished paintings and video links when I do new videos, as well as any kind of upcoming news. I don't paint watercolor nearly as often as I should. I enjoy doing it. It's very relaxing. It's something you can just put down at any time and not worry about covering the paints. They dry, but you add water to return to it. It's still alive, so to speak. It doesn't dry out permanently like acrylic paint does. So the rest of this painting, I'm just kind of adjusting details. Excuse me. So now I'm adding, just some highlights that I'm seeing in the ear and, texture, that sort of stuff. At the very end, I finished the painting with colored pencil. I don't know. I just couldn't leave it alone. I wanted to, because actually looking at it now, this is perfectly fine to finish the painting at this point and leave it as is. Sign it and call it good. But for some reason, I wanted to add in some of the details of the fine hairs here and there. So I went in with colored pencil and added that in, and it didn't destroy anything. It worked out fine. but I didn't video that part. But you will see the finished photo at the very end, which shows that you'll see it looks a little more finished looking with all the colored pencil I added. Whoops. I forgot I did that. But all you do is go in with water. Since all the color underneath is dried, just kind of blotting it out is fine. And I didn't mind it staying a little darker there, but yeah, I could work on it to get it a little more cleaned up. Again, adding more texture to the back of the cow, as well as making the foreground elements, punch forward a little more since it's a contrast in value. Here's an example using the side of the brush to try to add in a little texture there. Not sure if it totally worked, but that's what I was trying to do. Again, sorry this is off the camera. And I think this painting is still available, by the way. I haven't double checked that. It's possible it's sold at the last art market I was at. I'm recording this in February of 2023. This painting was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I just had the video forever, and I finally got around to editing it and recording the audio for it. So some of this is from memory here. Believe it or not, I'm somewhat new to watercolor. It's just something that I dabble with. I've had plenty of experience painting with mainly acrylic paint. So that's where, if there's any success in this painting, for instance, it comes from that mainly. And I've dabbled enough with watercolor to be able to spot some of my, tendencies, my bad habits, and try to work on that, but mostly I think I'm all right with it. I don't know if my style is as strong as it would be in acrylic, but I think it's getting there. I guess the eye had a slightly different shape. In the photo. Because there wasn't a lot of detail in this painting, and because I don't know, I was lazy, I kind of stuck with this larger round brush for most all of this painting. I don't think I even used that other one. Maybe I did a time or two, but I didn't really need it. And besides the fact that I knew that I was going to use colored pencil at the very end to add in more of the smaller lines. I think the nose has a little more red on it in the photo than I'm going to be going in here with some red. It's probably more of a pink color, but wasn't strong enough for me, so I'm kind of adding in some of that. Which I think it's good to echo the red at the top of the painting. So strengthening that kind of does that, allows your eye to see red throughout the painting and not just in one place. I think we're coming to the very end of the painting, actually, now that I'm looking at where we are in the video. I hope you've enjoyed the painting process, and again, leave a like and a comment if you have anything to ask about, and subscribe if you're not subscribed to keep up with me here on YouTube, and find me on my other platforms. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.